Just over 1 year ago today, I brought on my first full-time employee at 24 years old, and this video is going to be the 7 things that I wish I knew before I brought on my first employee. Now, the very first thing that I have to kind of frame is before you take on anyone, before you hire, it's really important that you take on full ownership of what happens. Now, if you're a business owner, it doesn't actually make a difference whether we're talking about hiring or whether we're talking about marketing and sales or product or whatever. Like, as a business owner, if you don't already have the mindset that you're responsible for everything, then you're up against it, right? You're in a really difficult position, okay? And I don't just mean this from a hiring point of view. I mean, like, from sales and marketing. Oh, our sales and marketing isn't doing well. That's my fault. I haven't developed the right skills. I haven't put the right systems in place. You know what I mean? The market isn't really good at the moment. That's my fault. I chose a crap market. You know what I mean? Like, when you start to take responsibility for these things that are going wrong, it actually empowers you to say, like, oh, actually, I didn't do this thing. That means I can just fix this by doing X, Y, and Z. But if you just say, like, for example, the market's really bad at the moment, then what? Well done. You can't do anything with that. It's pointless. It's not very helpful at all. Okay, so you have to take on full responsibility for whatever's going to be happening. Okay, like, everything that happens is because of a choice that you made. Whether or not you were aware of the choice that you made, that's a different question, right? But it is your fault ultimately, and that has given me a lot of peace, that frame of mind, and it's also helped me to be a lot more proactive in my approach when it comes to working with my employees. So some of you guys might know as well, my employees, Adnan, is really integrated within the work that we do at GTM Academy. And just to give context, like, there's been a few times where I've sat and I've been like, oh, you know, like, this is the kind of frame that I had. I was like, oh, I really wish Adnan would do this, or it wouldn't it be great if Adnan did X, Y, and Z. And then I sat there and I thought, well, I'm the employer. Why haven't I not framed it for Adnan to do X, Y, and Z? Why have I not told Adnan to do X, Y, and Z? Like, it's my responsibility to put him in the position that I want him to be in, right? That's fully my responsibility. If Adnan doesn't perform, that's my fault. Like, it's completely my fault. It's got nothing to do with him, yeah? And, like, he might not be motivated. That's my fault. Why don't I know how to motivate a team, right? It's everything comes back to me, right? Maybe he's a bad fit and he's a horrible person and he's been mean to every one of our customers. That's my fault. Why did I select him? Yeah? Like, this is the way that I think it's so much more helpful to think this way. And if you don't think this way, honestly, you're so difficult to work with. You're going to be a very, very difficult boss. And I think that Adnan, hopefully, even if he's watching this video, is quite grateful that whenever there's been a problem in the business, I've never thrown it on Adnan to be like, oh, Adnan, it's your fault, you're doing this wrong, you need to fix this. Like, yes, absolutely, there's been times where we've worked on our skills. That's something that everyone has to do, right? Like, you know, we don't have the right skill set yet, so we need to do some training, we need to do some development. Everyone has to do that, okay, including myself. But from a your fault point of view, I don't think there's ever been a point where I've said to Adnan, it's your fault. I've always believed that it's my fault. And this is the first thing that you just have to get right. And if you don't get right, I'm telling you, your employees won't even want to work with you, okay? So please take my advice with this. It's all your fault. All of it. Everything that goes wrong. And if you're not willing to take on that responsibility, please, I recommend you don't even hire and you find a different way to do things, okay? So that's point 1. Clearly you can tell I'm passionate about it, but I think it's such an important point to get across. And it's served me so well over the past year. So the next thing is be very selective with the work that you give to people. Okay, so the reason why I'm saying this is because Adnan, over the last year, I've actually put him in quite a few different roles. So just for context, before Adnan even came on full time, he started off as a video editor. He was doing, like, management of the podcast, and then he kind of leaned into operations, and then he's had to do, like, work with leads, and he's had to do sales, and he's had to do coaching. Like, I've actually put Adnan through the ringer in terms of, like, putting him through so many different roles, right? But I think it's good when you're in a startup and, like, early phase for people to know, like, how the business works overall. Like, it gives people a lot of reassurance to know, like, okay, I'm somewhat aware of how all these pieces of the puzzle come together. But the problem is that you also put yourself in a really difficult position when it comes to someone developing really good skills. Like, Adnan, if I just told him to do one thing for the entire year, he would be so much more skilled at that one thing. And if that's what I actually need in the business, then just keep him there. You know what I mean? Like, just stay in one position, do the same thing. It might not be fun, it might not be engaging, but you've got to be really selective about the workload that you give to people, because you need to be 100% sure that this is the skill set that I think will best serve the business. right? And if you keep putting them into different skills, or putting any employee into lots of different roles where they're trying to develop loads of different skills at the same time, they're never going to become great at that particular skill. So, to give you an example, if I've hired someone and I want to get more sales, like the constraint in the business is sales. If I hire someone and I'm like, okay, like let's say Bob, you are now a sales director, right? You're a salesperson, right? You need to go out and you close all the sales for all the leads that are coming through, right? But then at the same time, I'm like, okay, also go and do the lead nurturing, and also do the operations, and also do this other thing. It's like, well, how good of a salesperson is he going to become if his calendar is now so split into all these different responsibilities? If you want someone to be great at a singular role, you have to narrow down. And this is why I'm saying be selective with the work that you actually ask them to do. It might mean that you have to take on a little bit more work and a little bit more responsibility. But if it means that they're going to develop that skill faster, and that's a skill that's holding their business back, it might just be worth it. Okay? So whenever you give an employee, like, these are your list of responsibilities, a lot of the time I see a lot of companies thinking, oh, if I can just offload loads of different things onto this one person, that'd be amazing because I'm free, right? But it's like, okay, well, if you want to just get rid of everything so you can focus on something really high leverage, great. But if the thing that you're giving to someone is something that's really high leverage, don't overwhelm them with lots of different things. If you need to, hire someone else to do that stuff. Outsource it, automate it, whatever you can do. But don't go and give that person a ton of work when the other work that they're meant to do, like their primary work, is really important. Okay? So that's point 2, which is be selective with the work that you give them to do. Okay? The third thing is actually a framework that I think it was Hormozy that talks about this. And it's essentially, if you bring on an employee and you're doing like your SOPs and you're trying to train them up and things like that, he's got a system, 3-point system, which is demonstrate, do, document. Okay? So what that means is that, firstly, if you say like let's say I'm speaking to Adnan, I'm like, look, Adnan, you can start doing sales calls. This is how I want you to do sales calls. I show him maybe a recording of sales calls I've done. That's me demonstrating what I've done. So he can see, oh, this is how this task is done. Okay? Then the next thing that I ask him to do is to do it. Okay? Oh, sorry, actually, let's do document first, right? So demonstrate, document, do. Okay? So I demonstrate it, then I document it and say, like, look, this is the process. These are all the things that you have to do. This is a step-by-step guide on how I just did this thing. So for sales call, I would have my sales framework and I'd say, like, and then I went through this step here, then I went through this step, and then I went through this step. This is how every sales call should go, right? And he's like, okay, perfect. So now he's seen it done and he understands the step-by-step process, right? The next thing is for him to do it. Now, when you say do it, you can say, like, okay, I'm going to give you a lead and you're going to hop on a call and blah, 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 whatever, right? And you actually do it for the real deal. Or you can just do a mock version of that and say, hey, and then we're going to host a mock sales call. Come on to the call and I'm going to pretend I'm a lead and then you're going to try this out. And then you can get feedback, and then when they actually do it for real, they'll be in a better position. Yeah? So it's as simple as that, okay? But to be honest, when I started like training Adnan on how to do things, I wasn't really documenting things properly and I was doing a poor job at demonstrating. It was more so like I was communicating to Adnan, like, Adnan, you need to do these things and do that. But I wasn't showing him how it's actually done. And as a result, like, the learning was just much more limited. So it's become more and more apparent to me, like, how important it is to firstly demonstrate whatever it is that you're looking for, whatever outcome that you want, you have to demonstrate that to people. Then document it. And Adnan's kind of like being on my case about this because that's the way that Adnan learns best, right? He likes to see a solid structure in terms of how things are done. So for me, I'm like, okay, perfect. When I'm training Adnan, if I want him to do something new, I need to make sure that there's SOPs. And now we've got SOPs in the business. Like, we've got like really clear processes of how things are done. Yeah. And then now after that, he's got the demonstration, he's got the documentation, and then you just can go and actually do it, right? So that's point 3. Point 4 is understanding your employees' motivations. Okay, your employees, the things that they want out of your business is actually what keeps them in your business, right? So if you don't know what they want out of your business, you're going to struggle to keep them in your business. Simple as. So Adnan, for example, Adnan wants an opportunity to actually grow something huge and have a good impact in people's lives, right? I think he's had the ability to do that since we started G Team, right? And we're doing that, so I feel like to some degree, like, he feels quite fulfilled in that sense. But even on a little bit more of a micro level, what we found is that Adnan actually, even over the past week or so, he's been doing more like Notion builds. And he said, oh, I really enjoy doing Notion builds. I would love to do more of them. Like, he would really enjoy that as the work that he does. And I said, okay, Great. I didn't know that a month ago, but now I know that today I can start to push Adnan towards that role a little bit more. But if I didn't speak to him, and if I didn't understand what he's actually motivated by, then I wouldn't be able to put him in a position that he actually wants to be in. And if I didn't put him in a position that he wants to be in, it's just going to create resentment. Yeah, I don't like what I'm doing. I don't like the position that I'm in, whatever it is. So it's really important that we start to understand why you actually, or like why your employees are part of your organization. What are they looking for? Because you might think like, oh, they just love everything that we do and all this kind of stuff. They have their own selfish motivations. It might be financial motivations. It might be the type of work that they're doing. It might be a fulfillment motivation. I don't know, but you need to sit down with your employees and ask them, like, hey, like the same way that you would on a sales call when you're speaking to a prospect. Like, hey, like, why did you decide to hop on this call today? Hey, why did you decide to work with us? And like you have to get to like a really honest answer. And like if you're a good leader, you'll be able to tell like when someone's actually just being honest with you and when someone's like kind of like giving you a corporate answer because you're the boss and they're worried about like what you're gonna say. Like you want to really get to the root of it. Yeah, and it's like if you can get to the root of why someone's doing what they're doing, it's going to be much easier for you to cater to them. So I would even frame that in the question. But like, hey, by the way, like I really want to make sure that you're happy and content with the role that you're doing moving forward. So is there anything about the role that you would like to see change within the next few months, right? Within the next year or so? You know, I'm going to ask these kind of questions that's going to allow them to feel comfortable opening up. Okay? So that's 4, understand motivations. Number 5 is set clear metrics. I've been on Adnan's case about this recently now. And it's something that I think we've always done. We've always had this kind of thing of like, you know, we want to track the numbers. We want to make sure that we're like data driven. Me and Adnan are both engineers. So it's always been quite easy for him to like resonate with like seeing metrics. But one of the things that you have to understand is from a success point of view, like from a business success point of view, people need to know what is a good and a bad job, right? Did I do good today? Did I do bad today? People want to know. They have this desire to for almost like approval. And I don't mean this in like a negative way or a weird way or whatever, but everyone has it. Even as business owners, we have that same kind of desire for approval. When we look at our week, like I look at my calendar at the end of the week and I think, how many sales calls did I have? How many people did I close? How many coaching calls did I have? How did those coaching calls go? The reason I do that is because I'm looking for approval from myself of like, was this a good week or not? Right? Similarly, the people that you hire will also be looking for some level of approval. They want to know, am I doing the right thing? And you have to be able to show them that, or instead of you having to constantly tell them you're doing a good thing, like you're doing a good job, well done, you can actually just tell them what the expectation is and say, okay, for example, if it's like a lead gen agency or whatever, or you're hiring someone to do lead gen for you, hey, I'd really love for you to be able to for you to be able to collect 10 leads a week. Yeah, if you could do that, I'd be really, really happy. Yeah, if you could do 15, I'd be over the moon. Yeah, great. Now they know what they need to do. They just need to go and hit that metric that you've just given them, and you've given that clear expectation. You know, if you hit 4, by the way, that's not good. We're gonna have a conversation about that. Yeah, but if you hit 8, we're on the right track. 10's good. 15 is amazing. Yeah, and it's like, okay, perfect. Like it's so much easier for that person to then be like, okay, I know if I'm doing a good or a bad job. Right? And if they're tracking that week on week, let's say you're a little bit more removed from the business. Let's say you've got 12, 100, 1,000 employees, and you just need to know the metrics. Great, you can just look at the number. You know what I mean? And that's going to give you an indication of how good they're doing their job. So it's as simple as that. Like I have metrics that it's like this person's role is it directly influences this metric. Okay. Now I'm going to take this one step further with step 6, which is every single employee that you hire should have a clear pathway on how they make you money, right? I've already done another video on this. If you're not sure about how your employee or the person that you hire is going to make you money, then go and check that video out. But essentially, in a nutshell, every employee, their actions should relate to your bottom line. If they don't relate to your bottom line and adding more to your bottom line, then you have to really consider why the hell they're there, okay? You have to be able to explain this. Not only should you be able to explain it, they should be able to explain it. So if I hire someone and I say, hey, how do you make the business more money? If they can't answer that well, and they just start giving you loads of jargon, like, oh, you know, like I'm going to make the customer experience better, and because they're going to be happier, you know, like that's going to add to a good culture and all this kind of random crap, yeah? It's not good business. It's not good business sense. And that person, in my eyes, is underqualified. If they are going to a business and saying, I will add to your human capital to help you move this organization forward, and they can't even communicate exactly how they do that. Does this make sense, right? I hope it's clear. So, for example, let me give you some different examples. So, let's say you're a sales rep, right? And you're going to go to a company. How do you make the company more money? Hey, well, you've got these leads. Currently, you're closing 10, 20%. If I can close 30%, you would add this much to your bottom line. Great. Easy to understand, right? Sales is the easiest way because it's direct money, yeah? You increase your close rate, you're going to have, instead of £100,000 like added to your profit, you're going to have £200,000 because I'm going to double your sales, yeah? Great, okay? The next thing, like as something like HR, we might be sitting there thinking, oh, well, how does HR add to like the bottom line? Hey, I'm going to make sure that your employees stay with you for longer, so you have to spend less on hiring. Yeah? I'm going to, like, that's it. Like, that's a simple way. Or if it's from an actual hiring point of view, it's like, okay, I'm going to streamline your hiring process. So instead of waiting 6 months to fill a position, you only have to wait 3 months to fill a position, because I'm going to make the process easier. So the cost of the business of not having X employee for those extra 3 months is no longer there. Great. You know what I mean? This is how you make a business more money. Even if you're thinking about like customer success, like, oh, how is a customer success rep going to like add to a bottom line? Hey, I'm going to make sure that instead of customers staying with you for 12 months, they stay with you for 18 months, right? People don't want to make these kind of bets, right? They don't want to say this kind of stuff because they're worried that if they don't live up to this, then they're going to get fired. The thing is, if they don't actually live up to this stuff in a data point of view anyways, you should fire them, right? Like, if they can't actually explain to you why they're bringing in more money for the business, what are they doing there? Genuinely, yeah? Like, you could even use this from a legal point of view. If you're about to do a contract and there's a legal person, hey, like, how do you bring in the business more money? It's like, hey, I'm going to give you the confidence to actually be able to close these deals that you were unsure of, because now you actually know what you can and can't do. Yeah, and I'm going to stop you from getting into any legal problems that are going to cost you a fortune, because I'm going to be able to make sure that you do your due diligence. Yeah, so it's really simple. It's really simple. But most people don't want to actually sit and acknowledge this kind of stuff. Like, they don't think in this kind of way because they're not business owners. It doesn't matter if they're a business owner. They're joining a business, and they're joining a business, and the purpose of the business is to make money. So they should know how they solve that problem. Now, step 7 is hire highly skilled people. Hormozi actually opened my mind up to this in terms of like actually being able to spend more on your staff so that you get a better return, right? And I never really thought about staff as ROI until Hormozi talked about this. And just to give you like an example of how this looks, if you had, let's say, a salesperson and you pay them $2,000 a month, they might have a 15% close rate, okay? And you could go and find a closer for maybe $4,000 that has a 40% close rate, okay? And they're closing people at a higher package, yeah? And they're closing people more frequently because they have the experience, because they have the knowledge, because they have the skills, and you're spending less time training them. Again, all of this is adding more and more, and they're less problematic in the workplace because they actually care and focus on their job. All of this just because you paid a little bit more money. You can pay a little bit more money and get a lot back from it when it comes to actually hiring people. So when you're thinking about like, okay, what kind of person do I want to hire? Or don't think about it in like a frugal sense of like, how can I be as cheap as possible? Try and think about it in terms of like, what can I get the highest ROI for? Like, that's going to be the thing that, like, that's how a good business owner thinks, right? They don't think about like, how can I try and keep my expenses as low as possible? Okay? If you're in a really difficult financial position and you're looking at hiring, that's what you'll probably think. And then what'll happen, if you're smart, is that you'll hire someone that'll kind of like keep things going for now, and then once they make you enough money, then you look at getting someone that's much more skilled. And even if you wanted to do that, what you can do is you can hire someone that'll get you by in the meantime. Then you can go and hire someone that's actually really skilled at what they do. And once you hire that person that's really skilled, you can either get rid of the first person, or you can have that really skilled person train the original person, and now you've got 2 highly skilled people. Like, it's as simple as that. Yeah, but hiring highly skilled people is going to be one of the biggest levers in terms of being able to grow and scale a business. But most people don't think about it like that. They just think about volume of people. If I have lots of people, that means I can get a lot more done. But if you have highly skilled people, you can get a lot smarter work done, which in essence is a lot higher leverage than just sheer volume most of the time. So these are my main lessons when it comes to actually hiring people. Please do take some time to reflect on everything that we've talked about, because hiring someone is not a small thing, especially if it's your first time hiring someone. You want to take your time with it. Like, you want to really understand exactly what's going on within the business, and hopefully this video is going to help give you a heads up of some of the challenges that you might face and prepare you for them in the future. So that's it from me. Do stick around. There's more videos as well. If you enjoy this video, go and watch these videos, and I will catch you on the next video of the IWIN series.